I hope you already got quite some impressions this morning and can enjoy our third talk of the day as well. So, how can AI agents support during daily work? How does a mature organization work together with AI agents to let them work on the boilerplate while developers focus on innovation and architecture? Let me introduce you to our three speakers who will answer these and many more questions today. Joos is Managing Director at and founder of Flour, a company focused on innovative cloud-based cash register solutions. Already very early, he discovered his passion for the web. At just 17 years old, he founded his first company and gathered many years of experience in developing and hosting web applications, including his own co-location and highly scalable real-time systems. These roots in web and infrastructure development continue to shape his work today. Also at Flour, he deliberately chose cutting-edge technologies like Node.js, 0.x, and MongoDB, a technological advantage that still shapes the architectural landscape of Flour today. Through numerous projects and activities, Michael also has gained comprehensive experience in developing, hosting, designing, and operating highly scalable cloud applications. As an experienced entrepreneur, architect, and developer, he stands for pragmatic yet forward-looking solutions. His deep technical understanding paired with decades of experience makes him a valuable partner when it comes to not only building complex systems, but operating them sustainably and scalably. Becker works as a principal consultant at TNG. He has been deeply involved in software development since 2008. During his school years, he developed first PHP applications, which sparked his passion for computer science and motivated him to pursue studies at the renowned Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. After completing his degree in telematics, he joined TNG in 2019 and has since successfully supported numerous client projects as a full-stack engineer. In his spare time, Lukas speaks at local meetups in Munich, sharing his knowledge about innovative development approaches with the community. Ahmad is senior consultant at TNG. His passion for technology began from a very young age. Windows 98, 256 megabytes of RAM, and Warcraft 3 mods. Today, he transforms complex AI concepts into practical solutions for clients ranging from small startups to global conglomerates. With his Master of Science in AI and Telematics, also from Karlsruhe, AWS certification and development experience accumulated since 2016, he brings both technical depth and practical applicability to every project. Through workshops and talks, Zayad has already helped hundreds of developers transform AI tools from tinkering tools into game-changing assets for everyday development. And with that, let us hear about AI agents. The stage is yours.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get started, we would actually like to take you guys on a journey because this is kind of gets a little bit more fun, the more sort of thrill there is and sort of seeing it succeed. I think we have to fix this microphone a little bit. So what we will do is basically we're going to build an application, or we're going to have an agent basically build an application for us. We're going to start the process now. So I'll just briefly share this with you guys over here. So this is what we'll be using. We have an intricate prompt that basically sort of outlines what we want to have. So we're going to have a photo box application where we can then have AI generate additional images and turn them into different styles. As you can see, this is quite elaborate. So we're having around, if I'm not fully mistaken, yeah, scrolling works fine as well, 255 lines here that basically outline the application to make sure that this works the way we want it to. And ultimately, then this makes it easy as possibly can be. So all I have to do is just say, build me another version of the photo box based on, and then I get to say prompt. So we'll start this now. We'll let it sit, basically, and then later on, once my turn actually comes up, we're going to check in basically on what it's going to do. But you can already see the agent sort of running over here and eagerly trying to fulfill our bidding here. So with that out of the way, and with everybody on the same page, let me go here and let it hand over to Zayad.
Thank you. Hello. Does it work? Oh, yeah, no. All right, thank you. As Luca already just said, we want to make this talk interesting, so we're gonna spare and leave out all the theoretical intricacies that are and surround AI. We will leave out the math, and instead, we want to give you practical advice based on war stories from Flower. In this sense, I'm also very happy to say that the CEO of Flower is joining our talk. And you should definitely stick till the end, where you will hear some real-life metrics and business evaluation from the CEO himself. But with this out of the way, let's start talking about the challenge.
Give back the focus.
All right. At Flower, what was our challenge? So first up, the time limit. We had 2 internal developers, mainly backend developers, and 1 consultant, which was me. We had 6 months. It actually was in the beginning of this year. Sorry, a typo here. And we required a full-blown code transformation. What does it mean? Well, it already leads to our first challenge, which is the code base itself. There were 300 to 400,000 lines of code that needed to be migrated within this time. And we're not talking about a small change from, I don't know, Java 17 to Java 18. No, this is a full-blown transformation from Node 2 to 22 and Nest.js, and in the front end, Angular.js to Angular 20. This is why I'm talking about a transformation, because I don't think you can call it a migration anymore. But to show you how bad the state of the code really was, from my research, your average well-maintained enterprise project has a file size of around 500 lines of code. This keeps the files readable, maintainable, and manageable. To put this into perspective, this is the God file. One out of many God files in the project with 13,300 lines of code. To put this in a ratio, that's almost 27 times as big. If you were to print the code of that single file, you would already have a small booklet. And if you just want to scroll through it to read the code, you would need to scroll over 500 times. But we're not here to criticize or evaluate the code base. It actually was an intentful decision, because speed was Flower's strategy, and fast feature development is what kept them ahead of the competition. And it worked. They had 10 years of continuous growth. It's just that at some point, the technical debt accumulated and the growing customer base demanded an architectural change. But let's move on to the second challenge, which was the learning curve of our internal colleagues. Well, both of them had mostly worked with JavaScript so far. And one had dabbled a little bit on Nest.js, but both of them didn't really have any mentionable experience with the tech stack they were migrating to, meaning Nest.js and TypeScript, which meant that they had a complete paradigm shift that they needed to adjust to, learn about types, interfaces, decorators, and more, while migrating on such a tight deadline. And the third challenge was a personal one.
I did not.
Aside from this technical slide jumping challenge, I had the challenge of having basically 4 jobs at the same time. At the client, I was there helping them architect the new application, make sure that we design it in a way that does not repeat past mistakes, and, let's say, enterpriseify it, making sure we follow modern best practices. At the same time, given my AI expertise, I was also there as an AI lead, helping the internal colleagues adjust to AI, help them use AI, but also adjust the repository to AI. Coding-wise, my main challenge was front-end development. To be more precise, I was the sole developer for the front-end, which meant an Angular 20 implementation for the front-end from scratch, because we didn't just want to copy-paste the old code into a new syntax and call it a day. Given the age, it was and felt outdated. We wanted a completely new user interface and redesign how the user experienced the application. And nobody on the team was a designer, which made it more difficult. But the real kicker was, even though I had been working full stacks in 2018 and had worked with Angular, Bootstrap, React continuously since then, I hadn't touched Angular since 6 years. So I don't think I need to mention that at least syntactically, my skills were a bit rusty. So to summarize this,
no, technology doesn't like us.
Yeah. To summarize this, at Flower we had 3 main mountains to climb. First, the codebase beast, 300 to 400,000 lines of code that needed to be migrated, and technology jumps like Node 2 to 22 or AngularJS to Angular 20, with files reaching God status and over 13,000 lines of code. We had the steep learning curve of our internal developers having to learn completely new frameworks while building, and my personal challenge of having to fulfill multiple roles at the same time. Sounds easy, right?
It wasn't easy.
But this is where Michael's decision was a true AI lifeline. He said, true to his early adapter nature in the beginning of 25, let's embrace agentic AI. We are going to use Windsurf. And this was a turning point for the project, because this changed it from an impossible task, basically, to a very hard one, yes, but manageable. And so really smart leadership gave us the necessary tools we needed to succeed. But it isn't where it stopped. It also led to a personal transformation. Because I thought, okay, I haven't written Angular in a while, so my coding speed was rather slow. But as most senior developers, I've read way more code than I have written. So I was really fast at reviewing it, which led to a realization. Wait, that's perfect for AI collaboration. I can use that. So I changed my strategy. I will let AI write and let it worry about the syntax and the right imports and formatting. And I will focus on the big picture. I will be the architect that makes sure that from a component level up to the highest level, the system is going to be designed in a way that's going to be scalable, follow best practices in idiomatic ways, and prevent any code smells. And the results were simply astounding. Even though I already had 4 roles to fulfill, it was faster for me to take additional workload and migrate missing backend endpoints that I needed myself than simply creating the ticket for my colleagues. But let me paint you an even clearer picture on how efficient I had become. Because I remember a certain Friday morning, it was sunny, I was in the office, and it was around 9 a.m. when I had yet another full stack complex feature to implement, which meant some UI on the front end, which when interacted with will send a request to the back end, which in turn will trigger some business logic, get some data from a database, do some data transformation, send it to the front end. The front end will transform the data and then present the result to the user. Well, I wrote 2 prompts. One for the front end and one for the back end. I sent them both off in parallel, locked my screen, went to the coffee kitchen, had a coffee or a tea with a colleague, a casual conversation. And when I came back 10 minutes later, unlocked it, tested the feature, it was simply complete and working. And I just looked at the screen and thought to myself, what a time to be alive. But at TNG, we are realists. We know that not everything was or is sunshine and rainbows. I mean, the God file, while being very hard to work with as a human, was simply impossible for AI. It just continuously blew its own context window. Architecture decisions are also something you do not want to leave to the AI, because it usually requires domain knowledge that's still outside of the repository. It requires talking to the right stakeholders at the right time and understanding what the user needs and wants when he doesn't even understand it himself. Third, legacy code, especially the one with tight coupling, leads to a lot of AI confusion and hallucinations. And so they're telling you once more, let me just rewrite the entire code base once more. And last but not least, knowledge cutoffs. At the time of the project, Angular 20 simply didn't exist to the AI. So, and Angular 19 to 20 wasn't just a small change. It actually meant quite a few semantic and syntactical changes. So this was, for instance, also something that we had to address using for rule files or personas. And the key insight here that we want to give you is that in the beginning, AI is going to behave like a junior developer. It's going to be more trouble than it's worth. But once you put some time into it, onboard it, give it information about the domain, the architecture, your requirements. Once you give it a bit of hand-holding where it struggles, it will become a developer that's 10 times faster than anybody else. So, in essence, you need a mindset shift. Stop fighting AI and start working with it. Use clean prompts, use rule files, LLM personas, MCP servers, structured knowledge, the full set. And what you will get will be a productive team member that's available 24/7. Now, with all the technical terms I dropped, especially like rule files or LLM personas, you're probably wondering, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I get started with it? And do you have some tips on how to get a head start? Well, for this, I will hand over to Luca, who's going to take you through the best practices and do a technical deep dive.
Yes. Thank you, Syed. Right. So we've just heard basically their war story of how they were tasked with basically doing the impossible and how it became possible with the help of AI. And if he gives me the focus back once more, just briefly for the slides. There we go. So we've just talked about the how, right? So we've just seen already some examples of what you should be doing. So you want to have clean prompts that are well structured. And as we've seen, basically, the system that we'll show you in a couple of minutes already required basically having 250 lines basically to outline all of the possibilities that the AI could possibly think of. We've also seen rule files, which I'll go into some more detail here. And also just basically this mindset shift that you guys, or that we think that you guys need to make happen and to adopt in the age that we're living in these days, where agents can code so much faster than any human possibly can, and that basically now the task is more on us developers and us engineers to do the reviewing and to do the planning of the software ahead of us. So first off, let's start with the rule files. So what is a rule file? The rule file is basically your way, your possibility of constantly, with every chat, with every interaction, with every task that you're working on, to describe to the agent what it's actually working on. So the goal is that you are right now having models like Claude Sonnet 4.5 available to you, that you turn them into a specific developer for your use case. They are basically any run-of-the-mill developer that you can find out there. If you just go out on the street, find any developer, they will not know your code base, right? They don't know about any related services or APIs or something that you may have available to you, but rather you will have to explain this. Think of, as I had said, like a junior developer who doesn't know anything about your code base. They just started, and you can't expect them to produce code the way you want it to. This also then includes things, of course, to put business logic in there, to have architecture decision records, for instance, that you may have made where you decided, no, we want to use setup methods for our tests instead of before each and after each, and so on and so forth. Because otherwise, you guys are going to get frustrated with AI, like so many have, if you don't specify these things. You can, of course, always basically tell them for every prompt, but you also don't want to do that. Also, you may want to have specific rules that only apply to your front-end code, for instance. We have an example down here, but basically just check your IDE. Cursor right now is at least what we would recommend for those of you that at least don't mind Visual Studio Code, I guess. But ultimately, there is documentation for all of these, be it Claude Code, so on and so forth. They all work similar in that regard. Right. Then another thing that almost would have turned me away, and then I would not be standing here in front of all you guys today, is basically be very careful with the LLM that you're choosing. The LLM is the brains of the operation, and you have to make sure that you're picking something capable of doing the whole tool calling. Because otherwise, I can still remember, actually, I was sitting in Munich sort of outside. I was just playing around with it after work a little bit. And at the time, TNG was still basically only, or well, the most potent model, the default model was basically Llama 3.3 at the time. And it sucks at tool calling, period. You don't want to use that at all. Ever since, we've gotten different open source models that we're now running at TNG that are much more potent, much more capable, where you're going to have a much better experience. But if you don't choose a good LLM for the job, be it even GPT-4 or something, which you might think is capable, don't go with that right now. The king of the hill is really just Anthropic and the Claude Sonnet family, basically. You are going to have such a great time, in my opinion, basically using these models because they are capable of doing the tool calling, so performing all of these tasks, and they have also heavily been trained on code, basically. So you can accelerate your developers much faster and enable them much faster to get to a stage where they then have to review code and get to zoom out and have to make different decisions than they nowadays have to do. Also, relevant here is, of course, you can chat basically with these things as well, right? So that you can also discuss if you don't know what to do, for instance. That is also going to be better with these things. Maybe the open source scene is going to catch up even further, but right now we're not there yet. So if there's any chance that you're hooked into AWS or and so on and so forth, these models are available over there on Bedrock. And then lastly, also something that Zayat outlined, and that is something actually where I was also not entirely convinced of the entire time, but is basically that you have to adapt your workflows. You need to write specification for the features that you're building, at least the more complex ones. Of course not if you're just changing a button or something minor, nobody cares about that. But the big decisions in your applications that would warrant an architectural decision record and so on and so forth, specify this, because this is gold to AI. They can then also better understand how to proceed, basically, what you're building, why you're building this, why is it built in these ways, and then also adapt to this, right? Because again, all of this comes down to trying to make AI a specific developer for your use case and not just any developer that you can find out on the street. So what this then looks like is generally you want to start with a planning phase where you start with AI, you are having a feature, you're having a Jira ticket description, so on and so forth. You can dump that in basically and get a description out of it. This can be as simple as basically saying, write me a markdown file ultimately out of this thing. Nowadays, Cursor, Rucode, all of these also have specific modes basically built into this. And then already basically starts the fun part, right? Once you have an elaborate description, as we've seen before, 250 lines, which is actually the result of a planning phase here, you can just say, okay, now build me the thing. And then the AI agent will, as we'll see soon-ish, basically start running, is going to start executing commands for you, is going to start writing files, and all of this is just going to magically happen. I can already tell you basically it was done as soon as Zayat was finished talking, and it took basically this long to start a project that would normally have taken, I don't know, 2-3 hours, probably even more. So this is really the magic that's then happening. And then the last part is please make sure that you are reviewing, that your developers are reviewing the code afterwards. Because if you just let AI sit in a vacuum, you are going to have a terrible time. There's a guy who, on purpose, basically ran Claude Code for 3 months or something to generate a programming language for basically Gen Z. It works, but the code base is also quite difficult to sort of deal with. So kind of as a proof of concept, that's nice. And for weekend projects and so on and so forth, you can just approve everything. It's going to work. But long term, which is what we are here to do, please make sure that somebody looks over this code, that the right decisions have been made, and then also ensure that sort of after you're done chatting, once there have been maybe bugs, please again come back to the rule files and just instruct the agent to also update the rule files, right? Because you are going to have seen some behavior that you don't like, then just tell it about it. All right, and with this, we'll actually go back to the next slide and come back to Cursor, where we're going to experience sort of the magic for ourselves. Let me just move this back here. Come again?
You can just press enter.
Okay, right. So Zayat was so kind to basically already configure the terminal for us. So we see we have an application, no compile errors, no nothing. You can also see this is the prompt that I built, and unless Saya cheated on me or something, we did not do anything. It just wrote us a summary, and that's about it.
I mean, I did have to give it a key to our own TNG cluster, but yeah, you don't want to let AI do that.
Exactly. All right, and here is our PhotoBox AI. I'd say that looks about right. Apparently it produced one Next.js issue. So that's also, I guess, the beauty of it, that it basically then always decides to, just be a little bit undeterministic. And now I guess the three of us will get to take a photo together. And smile for the camera. And then basically we have our styles down here. So Syed was so kind to basically come up with a couple of styles. Basically, we also have a custom prompt that we could possibly give to it. So let's just go with cyberpunk, because why not? Okay, we have a little spinner issue, so that's the sort of thing, right, where you still want to iron this out. But now basically our TNG Skynet LLMs are running this photo and are going to optimize it for us, and there we go. So all of this was basically done in, how long did you talk? I think it was like 12, 15 minutes, the planned time, and we did nothing much else. But that's not all. We don't just want you to show you the finished project, basically. We just talked about a little bit of the recommendations that we're having. So this is basically the project here that we also use for this presentation. But we could also now basically continue here and add another feature. Let's add 3 more styles. What did we have? Halloween, Christmas, and I don't know, Japanese manga or something like that, doesn't matter. And basically, here now I don't really have to be that precise in my prompt anymore. I also want to have at least some creative, let's say, leeway for the LLM, since I don't want to entirely write a prompt for it. And I'm also still in the conversation, basically, right? Where the LLM still knows, okay, what we have been building and so on and so forth. So it knows, indeed, it has the right context for me. And now it just goes along, it finds the right file on its own. So that's really powerful, guys. Keep that in mind. When this whole thing started in 2022, when ChatGPT became really popular, we were still basically, nowadays it feels like cavemen, basically copy and pasting code from A to B. And we had to explain our code base and so on and so forth. Nowadays, all of this, okay, it wants to do a check because it wants to run. Please don't let commands automatically run. So that's actually a good thing. We don't have to, I can just approve it, but yeah. So that is really where this is shining, right? You can actually chat about your code. Your code now becomes also automatically, when the agent deems it necessary, the context. No more copy and pasting from A to B. So now it's already knows that it's running, and we can already check this as well. Let's start over. Okay, let's do a simple photo just for the sake of it. And then we basically, okay, I'm really curious what Japanese manga now is going to look for this one. But yeah, this is sort of where we are currently at. This is the status quo of what technology at least is capable of right now. And also, lastly, I think it's still really important to show this also with Cursor. Just if you don't have rule files, I cannot stress this enough. Please run this command. This is also just the default command that they have encoded to just auto-generate your rule files. It is not necessary that your rule files are perfect from the start. You just need to have some and then iterate on them, make them better. You will see behavior that you won't be liking, and then you can also correct that. It's not set in stone. All right, apparently that is Japanese manga. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. That ain't half bad. All right, so with that out of the way, let's just briefly get back to also, I quickly want to say this because there is a lot of hype in this area, and it is somewhat of it, at least right now, is unwarranted. But we've seen, for instance, the minor UI bug where the spinner was also sort of colliding with the sparkle. CSS is hard. It is just hard. There are ways to get around this, so please make use of MCP servers. For those of you that don't know, MCP is basically the way to give additional capabilities to your agent to let them see and do other things that are not basically built into the agent right away from a product like Cursor. And that is going to get you at least a little bit more to where you want to be, but it's also not just magically going to make CSS simple. Like even seasoned developers, I've forgotten a little bit because my current client, I'm doing less CSS than before. It's not fun and it's annoying, and you will have to deal with that. Legacy integrations. Let's assume you have a legacy project. Nobody wants to touch it anymore. Maybe the developer left. Maybe they're sick or something, but you need to make a change. You don't have to use AI for coding. Just chat with the AI assistant about it. Try to figure out, hey, we have this bug. Where could this possibly be implemented? How could we possibly do this? Also use it for code migration. If you want to modernize, if you want to use Strangler fig patterns or anything of the like, you can use these tools to basically transform your code base from A to B. And then my advice would also be, don't just blindly migrate, because if you're having a spaghetti AngularJS application, you're going to have a spaghetti Angular application, right? So don't just blindly migrate here. Novel architecture, as I had said, there are also ways around that. There are MCP servers, again, that will let you get basically up-to-date documentation for the task that you're trying to accomplish. Also, Cursor has this built right in where you can even already just say, hey, I need this documentation, please help me. And then lastly, please don't try to build SAP just from the start. Just tell, oh, I need an ERP system, build it for me. Not going to work. You've seen basically this application already took 250 lines. Imagine how much it's going to take to build a complex enterprise ERP system, right? So we are zooming out as developers. We are wondering more about the what instead of the how. But we're also not miraculously going to replace all of the developers at this point in time. And it's most likely, who knows, DeepSeek happen and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of innovation happening in this space, but probably at least for the foreseeable future, something at least nobody from us is saying you can just blindly replace developers and product managers are going to build everything. You still need to have somebody with technical knowledge that can judge whether this is good, whether we want this, and whether we want to proceed with this. This is about accelerating your developers. And the bottom line for me is then indeed also AI is a powerful tool. You have to make use of it. There are ways to do this, be it AWS, where they don't train on your data and so on and so forth. Or maybe you're even, considering my first client, for instance, their code was not their trade secret. That was not what's valuable about their company. They had contracts, they had branding and so on and so forth. That was what matters. If they had just leaked all of their code, nothing would have happened, right? So keep that in mind. AI is a must today. So please figure a way to make this work. And with that, I'll give it to Michael to basically explain to you how this has also helped him accelerate their development.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Pardon? Thank you, Luca and Sayat, for this amazing show. But as you can see, it's not just a show, it's reality. And it's today, it's a today reality, not any future view of developing, rather than the today reality. Just allow me some few words about myself. I've been a developer for around about 30 years. And what I see today is that AI changes the way how we develop software in a great way, and in a different way what we did the 30 years before. So as you can see, it's quite a big change for every developing company and also for every company which produces software. So from my point of view, it's not a show, it's reality, as you can see. So, and for me, it's not only a technical decision or a technical way of writing code, it also has a business impact for the software, for the company, and also for the product and their customers. So it's more than just writing code. And just a few words about Flower. It was just a summer project in 2014, and our target was not to build such a scalable application which alive 10 years or more. So this is the conclusion of the decision at 2014 to create just a small project, and we will see what we will get and what we can reach out with our project. So perhaps I can get the focus. Thank you. So what we can see to
there we go.
So what we can see today, if we have a look at the companies which produce software or which use software as for their customers, we can see a lot of great technology out there. We can see a lot of great code and a lot of great architecture, but this means nothing without the real impact for the customers. So having good or having a great software means nothing without business success. And if we have a look from this point of view backwards the last year, I see lots of applications which grown over the years, also flower, as you can see. And the problem with growing applications is that you do not want to change the code. You do not want to handle new features within the existing code. You want to write new code, okay, that's okay, but you don't want to change code because you don't understand the code or it's too old or whatever else. So refactoring, it's not only a strategic decision, it's quite a big challenge for the product itself and for the business survival, because as we have heard before, if you have a technical debt, sometimes the point comes out of the time and the technical live when your application will run never more. So it's a kind of business survival. So what are the measurable benefits for your customers if you refactor code? It's not just about having a new code base or having a new front end. It's more than that. So you can create such more features in such more or less time. And this is really a great advantage of using AI, because you can ship features, as we heard before, ship features much more faster than ever before. So, and if you ship more features in a less time, you have a more and more customer satisfaction. So everyone knows that if we create new code, there are bugs in there. Sorry, but this is the normal life for humans writing code. You cannot write code without any bugs. It's not possible. But AI can do this. And so you can create also a higher customer satisfaction at this point. And all in all, you reduce your customer churn because your customers are happy with your software. So if I look at the team productivity in comparison today and 6 months before or 12 months before, we can see some great advantages. But as you know, we have not really long years of experience or lots of lines of code which we can analyze. So every facts and figures which you can see here on my slides are only on a small result set base. So it's quite an indication where we are today and what is perhaps possible in the near future. So if I have a look at our development department, I saw much more lines of code which are inserted in the repo. So according to that, I see much more deletions also. And as you can see, there is just today, the refactoring is a daily work of also the new code because AI refactors your complete code base if you want. So it's not just, oh no, it's a problem for the future or whatever. You have the possibility to refactor your code even it's only 1 or 2 days old. So I can see a productivity increase of 2.6 lines of code every day in comparison to the time before. So my team concentrates not only on maintenance of our code, rather than developing also new features and switch from the old code base to the new code base. So from my point of view, AI handles all routine tasks, which are not really loved by the developers. So I think they can shape software, they can innovate software, they can create software with the help of AI. So what do you get if you use AI within your software development? So I think, as I mentioned before, you get really fast to the market with new features, new software parts, and can really ship much more features in less time. And it has a great impact on your business. And in addition to that, it's way more easier to create also ambitious projects which takes a lot of time to plan, to implement in the past. So AI is able, with the help of AI, the developers are able to create lots of lines of code if you do the right prompt, as we can see just a few minutes before. And in addition to that, you save costs. It's not really a rocket science that if you create with just small prompts, lots of lines of code, you can save costs in a really great manner. And all in all, if you do this all, you can get more revenue of your software on the business side because you ship features faster, you have a faster time to market, and this is what you want to get if you have a software business or if you have a SaaS model or whatever and want to ship software really fast. So you are the market leader if you are using AI. So if I have a look backward, I see that we decided us to use a triangular fig pattern, and our old and our new code base exists in parallel. So we migrate request step by step. So the downtime risks and the downtime problems and perhaps the bugs which are already in our old code are in parallel. So it's a way to do the migration on a really smooth way. So if we have a look at the status today, we can see that 70% of our API requests are already migrated to the new environment. And we talk about 6 months. Okay, I have to go. Sorry. So one really important thing is, if you are in a managing position, you want to know what is my invest and what get I out of the invest today. So if you have just a quick look, you have to invest in AI tool licenses, in training and education, and some of really small implementation time. You have to learn to prompt and so on, but this is daily work, and you can do it day by day and feature by feature. And you get perhaps three more output out of your invest. And in my books, I think the payback period is less than 6 months. Because of your invest, what you have to do and what you get is really payable within 6 months. Sorry. So what I can see is these features, as I mentioned before, we have less maintenance costs because we also refactor new code really fast. New developers are onboarded in 2 weeks, not 2 months or much more, because they understand the code, because AI understand the code. So you get a really fast endpoint development for our API infrastructure. And at the end, also a really easier integration for our customers, because we create new API requests really fast and really in a good code quality without any bugs. So from my point of view, if you start early, you win early, okay? So you have to start really quick, because I think that if you fall behind, it's also a strategic risk for you and for your business and for your software and so on. And one really major topic at this point in time is, from my point of view, you have to use AI together with humans. As we heard before, we have the humans should review the code and so on, and this is quite really a big topic which you have to secure every day. So what is the path in my books to implement this solution in your company? I think you have to set up the tooling. It's just doing and just the research at what tools are available on the market. In addition to that, you have to train your employees, you train your developers, and at the third step, you can get the first results out of your training, I think. So, key takeaways, just a short summary. I think using AI has strategic imperatives. It's a high return on invest if you start early. You have competitive advantages to your business and to your customers, and you have benefits across the board. So, a short message, start now. Thank you.
Test. Hi, okay. All right, thank you very much for that great talk. And I know all of you are very eager to directly jump into agentic coding as well. But first, we will have the opportunity for some questions. First one's already over here.
Yeah, thanks for the great talk and the real-life experience. You emphasized very much on the human review of the produced code, and also you emphasized that there is a lot of code produced by AI. So how do you make sure that you don't lose the time advantage you gain while coding into reviewing time later again?
I mean, if I may answer. Basically, from my point of view, just because you have AI, you shouldn't generate code you don't need, right? So if you have feature A you want to implement, then you can just do that faster with AI, and let's say, as a hyperbole, the amount of code you have to review stays the same. It's just that the step from, okay, I got the spec and now I need to implement, this time step is smaller, and you're more often at the review phase than before. And additionally, there are also more and more tools helping you review. I think there's like CodeRabbit, yeah, for instance, that's focus on AI-based code review. At least at this point in time, I wouldn't leave it completely up to the AI, but just like how you can speed up the development process with AI, I'm also confident that as time goes on, you will be able to speed up the review process more and more as well.
Yeah, and you can also sort of build it yourself, also review processes, for instance, these days. So there's definitely potential there that you can must leverage, because your competitors are going to do it for you. Next question.
Next question over here. Also, if you're listening remotely, feel free to ask your question. We will come to you soon.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this very wonderful and impressive talk. My question concerns one of your challenges about Angular 20. There you said there's not much data available for the AI, so the AI was not too supportive. So how do you think this will develop in the future when more and more developers will use AI and there's less and less data available that the AI can rely on? Will it change somehow, that it will hallucinate more and the answers will become worse?
Yeah, thank you. So, very good question. So, first of all, you can already now see a trend in the frameworks themselves, because, for instance, Angular, since it's a Google framework, they embrace it very fast. So, already right now, all the documentation on Angular is already hosted in an optimized way for AI. For instance, if you want to look up what a signal is, you can also, I think, add a suffix /LLM. And you will get an optimized version for AI, so it's easier to scrape and read for the AI. This is one trend that I think will just get stronger over time, that the frameworks will optimize the documentation for AI. So let's say that you do not rely so strongly on the knowledge cutoff built into the training data set. But of course, the risk you mentioned is a very real one. As AI becomes more popular, so does AI slop. And it is a very real risk that we end up with the dead internet, let's say, where AI just starts to kill itself.
Also, keep in mind, at least these agents are not exactly operating in a vacuum. They get feedback loops also from because it's still an IDE, it's not just a chat window that lets you write files. They also get feedback that, hey, this method, for instance, doesn't exist, and so on and so forth. So the IDE is also telling it, okay, you produce some code, but think about it again. So to be honest, I'm not that concerned about it. Also, given that coding in that sense doesn't change that much anymore. Everything is just structured output. It has to be semantically readable for a compiler, right? So, yeah, just bring in the information that is then missing.
All right.
One question would be, do you see a future for this kind of tool to be used in mission-critical real-time code? So I'm in the medical imaging and guided surgery space, and we use these tools at this point for unit tests, some UI components, and otherwise very carefully only the passive ways you showed them, right? But do you think at some point we could also use that for, what's being applied with a robot on a patient? Or how would you go about this?
To be honest, I guess this then becomes for me a question of confidence, right? This is right now already a question you're having with your developers. How confident are you that they are going to produce code that is doing what it's supposed to do and that it's bug-free? Ideally. And so I think, yes, you can reach that stage, but it of course requires then extensive unit testing, extensive automated testing, manual testing. All of this does not go away. Right now, what we are accelerating is the production of code. The review part we already discussed. The human review part, at least for the time being, is staying, but can also be augmented basically by AI again. We've just seen a talk, for instance, from another speaker about how it's helping them find security bugs also in other code, right? So AI is being introduced more and more into tooling, and I'm seeing a future definitely where this is possible, that AI can also produce mission-critical code. I don't see why not.
Yep, I agree. Just a small addition from my side. I think at least for very, let's say, the more critical and niche an area is, I think the more important specialized or fine-tuned models are going to become. Just a few days ago, I read about speech-to-text software that was specialized for doctors, because they usually speak into their transcoders anyway. So a company specialized on exactly that use case, and it got to a point where the report it generated for the doctor was like 90% plus already finished, which is, I think, more or less impossible if you just use a generic model with a generic tooling. And I think this is also a future that I can see for very specific tasks like you mentioned.
All right. I would suggest if you have further questions, you can find our speakers during the day. They will be around. And yeah, thanks again for the great talk.